What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christoforou with the Duran, and I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran, and today we're going to discuss Bolton in Moscow. Alexander Bolton, John Bolton is in Moscow. Some call him a neocon, some call him a libertarian hawk, some call him an America First type of person, type of bureaucrat. Other people say he's dangerous. Okay, Bolton's heard it all, I guess, and he's not very fazed by it. He's now in Moscow, and he's preparing the way for what apparently will be a Trump-Putin summit. Explain to us how you see John Bolton, and you've written about him. You wrote about him coming into power on March 25th in an article of yours from the Duran. You analyzed the man, you analyzed his position and what he might be doing, and you rightly predicted that a Trump-Putin summit may come about. Explain to us how you see the man, and explain to us what exactly he may be preparing the way for.
Right, I think to understand John Bolton is to understand that he is first and foremost an American nationalist. He believes in the United States. He wants the United States to be the most powerful country in the world. He wants to protect and promote the interests of the United States, and he is not particularly concerned about how that is done. And more to the point, he is absolutely open and honest about it. I think this is one of the things people find so grating about John Bolton, is that he is so straightforward in what he says. I don't think John Bolton is any sort of neocon, as people are talking about. I don't think he's a particularly dangerous man. I think he is an extremely clever man. And I think he's probably a very efficient executive of Donald Trump's decisions.
What do you think he's doing in Moscow exactly? I mean, because I can see Syria, I can see Ukraine. There's definitely some serious flashpoints, but do those warrant a summit? Especially now with the Russiagate Mueller investigation, still ongoing. Is there some other reason why Bolton and why Pompeo as well, who's also involved in Trump's foreign policy, why these men are pressing for a Trump-Putin summit? Are there other issues that we should know about, or is it strictly Syria, Ukraine, and some other things?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, first of all, I think we ought to look at what Bolton himself said when he was in Moscow. He said it was very clearly, he said, even though there are times in US and Russian history when the two countries have not got on well, it has always been important and useful for them to have high-level contacts with each other. I think he is a sufficiently intelligent man to understand that. But I think he is also somebody who thinks strategically, which is not something you've had much of in the Trump administration up to now. And he's looking at the world, and he's seeing that the United States is now in confrontation with China on various issues. It has a deteriorating situation with the Middle East, and of course it has an overarching conflict with Iran. So what he wants to do, and what I think people like Pompeo want to do, is they want to try and draw the Russians to some extent, as far as they can, away from the Chinese and the Iranians, and get them to be more accommodating to the wishes of the United States, which is in conflict with those two powers. I think that is Bolton's agenda. Whether it is the Russians' agenda is another matter.
Obama definitely was not strategic thinking, that's for sure. And will Bolton succeed?
Well, I think we will get a summit. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think we will see an improvement in the overall political atmospherics. Will he succeed in detaching Russia from China and Iran, which is what I probably think he's up to? I think the answer unequivocally is no, where China is concerned. I think the Russians are fully committed now to a close relationship, indeed an alliance, but in all but name, as we previously discussed in earlier videos with China. I don't think anything Bolton and the US can do will change that. With Iran, I think the Russians are not so committed to Iran, but I don't really see them changing their policy with Iran much either. But they may act as a useful bridge between the US and Iran, and perhaps advise Iran on particular points, on flashpoints, where it may be in the interests of both Iran and the United States that the Iranians back off a little.
Alexander, is Bolton preparing, maybe he's getting an early start on it, but is he preparing a possible conflict with Iran by going to Russia and kind of preparing the way for what will inevitably be a conflict maybe 2-3 years down the line?
I think that has to be a possibility. I said he is a strategic thinker, and one of the things that must be concerning him is when he looks at the Middle East, which is his primary area of interest, what he sees there is a collapse of American influence and power, which began to be clear under the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations. He will want to reverse that, and probably the country he sees as the main obstacle to achieving it is Iran. So if he can isolate Iran to the extent that he can, and draw the Russians away from Iran, and leave Iran more vulnerable to an attack by the United States, well, I think he is the kind of person whom experience shows might well try to do that.
I think we know that, and most people that watch us and follow us know that Russia has developed a very close relationship with China. And I think that's inseparable at this moment. Can you say the same about Iran? I mean, how close is Russia really to Iran?
The answer is it's getting closer, but at the moment it's not really very close at all. The Russians and the Iranians cooperate with each other quite closely in Syria, but they do have different opinions and views about the conflict in Syria. In terms of economic relations between Iran and Russia, they're not actually that highly developed. There was an article on the Duran quite recently by a Russian journalist who works for Komsomolskaya Pravda, which is Russia's biggest circulation newspaper, in which he pointed out just that, and how difficult, in fact, it is for someone to travel from Russia to Iran, even though they are in some ways neighboring countries. So they're not really that close, and there's been a long history of tension between them going way back into the 18th century, which especially in Iran has not been fully forgotten.
Right. And I think Bolton is obviously, I would imagine Bolton is very well aware of this fact. So Alexander, I'm going to ask you the final question so we can wrap this up. And this is probably the biggest question that everyone's going to probably be asking in this conversation. How will this go down with the media, with the Democrats, with the liberal left, a Trump-Putin summit, given the Mueller investigation?
I think they will not be pleased at all, and I think people in Britain in particular will be extremely upset, and I think the Democrats will be furious. I don't think there's anything they can do about it, because I think the momentum now is very clearly with Donald Trump. He is finally in a position to take the decisions that he wants as President of the United States. We've seen the Mueller investigation is gradually unraveling. It's not going anywhere. I think we've discussed in our previous videos, the ones about the Horowitz report, for example, how it's starting to look increasingly as if it's the other side, the Democrats, who are really in real problems. And I think that though they will be furious, I think though the media will be furious, I think some of the US's allies will be furious, I think Donald Trump will pull this one off. I don't think there's any doubt about that in my mind. I think we will see around the 15th of July Putin and Trump meeting, probably in Vienna or possibly in Helsinki, having a detailed discussion about issues, perhaps not coming to any very specific agreements, but starting the ball of cooperation between the United States and Russia moving, doing what they had always intended to do after Donald Trump was elected, doing what Donald Trump campaigned during the election that he wanted to do, and I think it's going to start to happen.
I want to take it from the other side real quick, Alexander. What does Russia and Putin gain from this meeting?
I think what they gain, from their point of view, is a relaxation of tension. What the Russians have been facing ever since 2014, when the Ukrainian crisis got underway, arguably from even before, is a sense that they are under siege by the United States. The United States has been mobilizing all its allies and all its assets to put as much pressure on Russia as it can. We've had a succession of sanctions imposed on Russia. We've had attempts to discredit Russia, long political campaigns, all sorts of things of that sort. That has been very distracting for the Russians, who have wanted, I think, during the whole of this period, to focus overwhelmingly on sorting out their own internal domestic affairs, their economy above all. And I think what they're looking for from a summit with Donald Trump is a certain amount of political space, a ceasefire, if you like, which will give them more time to get their own house in order. I don't think they have any higher expectations than that. But I think if they achieve that, if they obtain a certain relaxation of tensions and some assurance that there won't be more and more sanctions all the time and more and more pressure on Russia all the time, then I think they will be broadly happy.
Well, you said July 15th is a tentative date. We'll wait and see what happens. We'll report on any news that comes up with this Trump.
We should get the
summit.
We should get that date very soon. Probably by the time very soon. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's hope it happens. Mm-hmm. It sounds like it could be very constructive and can lead to good outcomes for both countries.
I think so,
Alexander. I think so too, definitely. Thank you, Alexander, for an excellent analysis on Bolton's trip to Moscow and what can come out of it in a potential Trump-Putin summit in mid-July. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below. Also click on the notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video, and visit the Duran shop. Pick up a shirt, help support the Duran. Until next time, take care.